De mi tierra bella, de mi tierra santa, oigo ese grito de los tambores y los timbales algún banchar. Y ese pregón que canta un hermano que de su tierra vive lejano y que recuerdo la hace llorar. Una canción que sigue entonando de su dolor, de su propio llanto y se le escucha pensar. La tierra te huele, la tierra te da en medio del alma cuando tú no estás. La tierra te empuja, tierra física, la tierra suspira si no te ve más.
Podré morir, mi corazón no lo tengo aquí, allá me está esperando, me está guardando que vuelva allí. Cuando salí de Cuba, dejé mi vida, dejé mi amor.
The first U.S. cruise ship in nearly 40 years crossed the Florida Straits from Miami and docked in Havana on Monday. We're starting commercial travel on waters that served as a stage for a half-century of Cold War hostility. Carnival Cruise Line's Adonia became the first U.S. cruise ship in Havana.
Are you happy?
Yes, I'm happy.
In September of 2016, my brother Willie and I took our father Guillermo back to Cuba. It was the first time in more than 6 decades. For most of his lifetime, he had resisted returning. I have nothing to find there, he said. Suddenly, my father changed his mind. He listened to his heart. Cuba was calling.
We're holding out for Cuban coffee.
How do you like the cabin, Dad? ¿Está contento?
Estoy contento.
Cheers!
The journey of our collective dreams is but a bon voyage away. The Adonia pulls into the port in Old Havana, and for my father, the anticipation is palpable, a rush of feelings, a mixture of emotions.
We're going to stay in touch with the city and with the population inhabitants. That's okay? Come on.
For Papi, more than 60 years of memories flood back in the bustle of a new Havana. The promise of this first day bringing a smile to his face as radiant as a Cuban sun rising. We're told on this day that a new port will change things in Havana, but a horse-drawn carriage reminds us that some things never change.
The port of Havana. Nowadays, we only remember that because the port was transferred to the west of Cuba.
Scaffolding covers the Christ of Havana on a hilltop overlooking Havana Bay. And not far away, my father glimpses the famed El Morro, a landmark he loved to gaze at as a kid. From street vendors hawking wares in the dusty doorways of old Havana to cigar-chomping locals corralling tourists, the Cuban identity is visible and vibrant. Our tour brings us to Havana Cathedral, one of 11 Catholic cathedrals on the island of Cuba. Catholicism holds a special place in the heart of all Cubans, especially my father. As Willie accompanies Dad down the aisle with a favorite tour guide, he takes time to doff his hat, scratch his head, mug for my camera, and even rub Dad's bald spot for a little Cuban luck. The ghosts from the past are with my father on this day, so in the cathedral, he offers prayers for those he loved, now gone, but not forgotten. La Bodeguita del Medio, a favorite Hemingway haunt. The Lady in Red sings of a love that's flown away like an eagle in the wind, as mojitos and the mesmerizing magic of the maracas in motion are music to the ears of turistas at lunch. The sights and sounds of Havana are entrancing and hypnotic in this lush paradise setting, but harsh and haunting realities can intrude around every corner. Cubans try to put their best foot forward, art for sale spilling from walls to walkways amid graceful arches and doorways of Cuba's colonial past. The intricate vitrales, or stained glass windows, go back centuries. Narrow pathways snaking through old Havana Vieja reveal hidden crannies and balconies where laundry flutters like flags billowing in the soft Havana breeze. So what do you think of the fact that my father's returned after 60 years?
65.
I didn't know. It's great.
No, I'm not the father. He is.
Ah, you are. You were born right here in Cuba. Oh, great. We welcome you. Welcome to your country again. It's great. I'm great. I'm okay, wonderful. 60 years after. Y se fue en el año 51, ¿no? Bueno, eso se fue en el 45, regresó, increíble lo que pasa aquí. A lot of memories, very good, thank you. We continue.
I hope you got that again.
Portraits of doe-eyed gitanas, or gypsies, seem to follow us with their eyes as we make our way through the winding walkways of the Havana my father left behind. Suddenly, we are at Ambos Mundos, the hotel where Hemingway kept a room. And it's only fitting that a tune that the author loves so much is playing on a sun-kissed afternoon as time goes by. It's still the same old story, a fight for love and glory, a case of do or die. The world will always welcome lovers as time goes by. But love and lovers sometimes seem secondary in a society where the message of revolution is always loud and clear.
Me sacié con tu presencia, todo en ti es maravilloso. No concibo tanta dicha, soy
So what do you think about my dad doing this?
You don't often see kids traveling with their folks and taking them somewhere anymore. This is just fantastic. What an adventure. I could tell this morning when we ran into you, I looked at you and I said, they're family, and you had so much emotion, and my husband goes, he's a Cuban, I bet you anything he's going back for the first time. It's amazing.
And amid the frenzy on stage, there are surreal interludes, like showgirls outfitted in chandeliers, sashaying through the aisles in all their splendor.
They wanted to create like a real...
The next day, we're on a bus headed to Finca Vigía, Ernest Hemingway's home in Cuba from 1939 to 1960.
Hemingway had a bell. When we had people visiting sometimes, used to run the bell. He had some Winchester cannons, and he also fired the cannons. There is different layers that have been lifted up, and those are the colors in which the house has been painted in the past. And but the original color was sort of yellowy, like this one.
Inside the immaculate residence, a moment frozen in time. Hemingway's living room looks exactly as he left it in 1960.
Hemingway's property is 140 acres. On his death, he willed it to the people of Cuba. He loved the Cuban people, and the Cuban people loved Hemingway. He was an icon here. Unlike the rumors over the years that during the revolution, Castro took over everything and took it away from Hemingway. That's not the case at all. Family donated it to the people of Cuba. It immediately was turned into a museum.
Está muy bonito. Yo me voy a quedar aquí de la vacación.
Yeah, right.
Y Hemingway, una persona importante para Cuba.
Lo más importante que querían los cubanos. Él vino aquí a escribir sus libros, a pasar su vida aquí.
¿Tú pensaste que tú ibas a poder ver esto?
No.
En tu vida.
Eso ha sido un regalo especial de ustedes.
Not far away, Cubans churn out guarapo, or fresh sugarcane juice, the old-fashioned way. Ay, qué rico! a refreshing concoction on a sweltering day.
Cosas van avanzando poco a poco,
Poquito a poco.
todo el mundo
Esto va a
entiende,
ser
claro,
La juventud.
la juventud. Todo el mundo quiere amistad.
Ya.
Sí.
Los cubanos quieren amistad con el pueblo de Estados Unidos, hasta con los gobiernos que hagan su amistad
sí.
de una vez por todas.
Negocio ya.
Eso que
Quiten
quiere,
el
el
barco
pensar del
ya.
cubano es ese, no es otro.
Sí, sí.
Es ese.
Mucha razón.
Ahora que hay algunas personas que están allá que no están de acuerdo.
Bueno, está bien, pero tienen esa.
Ujú.
Yo noto,
Sí.
y hace 65 años y veo más carros, hay movimiento.
Hay movimiento.
Y el pueblo, ustedes se ve
Claro.
un amor, un caballero.
No, y aquí se adora mucho el carro americano, todo el que están todos, muchos carros están pintados, lo más bonitos, haciendo
Sí,
funciones
sí.
de museo, de taxi y todo eso.
Se nota.
Se nota, sí que se quiere acercamiento,
Esto poquito a poco.
poquito a poco.
No demora, pero
Vamos
poquito a poco.
va a ir avanzando.
Se ve.
Claro, se ve.
Ve lo que-
Además, todo el
la
mundo quiere eso.
juventud.
Sí.
Los policías, los que están en el aeropuerto, las
Sí.
muchachas, una amabilidad.
Claro.
Nada de la gente ya, nada.
Nada. Amor. Tiene que haber
Lo que pide el
amor.
Señor.
Next, we stop by another Hemingway haunt, La Terraza in Cojimar. Inside, photos of Hemingway with Castro are everywhere, as are tributes to the fishermen who inspired the author's famed The Old Man and the Sea. And as we enjoy a bite in a spacious dining salon, a familiar tune is played by the Cuban band. We may be in Cuba, but Hotel California beckons and beguiles us. From La Terraza, we make a stop at the imposing Cojimar Tower, known locally as Torreón de Cojimar. It's just east of the old section of Havana, and even here, Hemingway is honored with a bust. In old Havana, we wade through a sea of tourists, rushing to meet a chauffeur who will whisk us back in time to September 12, 1951.
Church where my father was married in 1951. He hasn't been back for 65 years.
The years melt away as Papi makes his way to the church, where his life would change forever. With each stair he climbs, the pages of the calendar fall away. Walking into the church, my father remembers seeing my mother. It's his beloved Angelina. She's waiting for him at the end of the aisle. It's their wedding day. On this afternoon, he takes the same steps. My mother is gone now, but for my father, she's never left his side.
Felsen, Storm und Wind soll
he meets a woman who works in the church and extends a blessing and a warm embrace. And another woman tells him all is not well in the Cuba beyond the church doors.
Esto no tiene solución. Esto aquí cada día va peor y peor y peor y peor y peor. Mejorar no mejoramos, que ellos dicen, tú los ves hablando por la televisión, tú dices, oye, está puesto bueno. No, esto no está bueno.
Pero hay que rezar mucho, que el Señor
Yo pido mucho a Dios que...
From the church, we're off to the heart of La Víbora, to a yellow house that was a part of Dad's life so long ago. Josefina 18 is where Adelina lived, People's sister. It's also where we as kids visited with our mom in 1959. We're greeted by Pablo, the husband of our distant cousin Tanya, and almost immediately, Dad is reminiscing about the house that held so many memories.
Te mantiene.
Mira, la más de mango sí es de época, ¿eh? Era mango sí. Lo que no había la cisterna.
No, ahí estaba solo un patio ahí atrás.
Todo eso
terreno todo.
Con plata.
Terreno con todo.
Así. Así lo recibimos nosotros, con el difunto feliz.
Y ahora va a vender la casa.
Sí, ya, sí, vamos a ver si hacemos algo.
Tanta historia, ¿verdad?
Tanta historia se va.
Yo vine para ahí a los 8 años.
8 años. Aquí para ya a los 17 ya estaba aquí en la casa. Ya. Era aquí. Y después se fue a los 17 años. Un niño chico.
Sí.
Un baby.
17 años. El tiempo caminan rápido.
Y caminan rápido.
Y uno camina rápido. Hay que tener salud.
Es lo principal. Una buena alimentación, que es lo que aquí en Cuba está jodida. Pero bueno, estamos tirando y a ver qué se hace.
¿Cómo está la cosa?
No, está mal.
Sigue claro.
Así que no, el hijo mío está allá en Miami. Ahí saliendo, ahí adelantando algo. Porque la verdad que mucha historia, muchos recuerdos, mira, 89 años. Yo creo que está más joven que yo.
De esa juventud.
Tiene que levantarnos.
Eso es lo que
volver a
cambiar, porque si no, estamos jodidos.
Bueno, la diferencia la ven ustedes ahora. A ver la diferencia.
Se ve yo hoy. Es una y otra tristeza. Esto no se parece a cosas feas.
No se parece
No,
nada.
no.
¿Qué?
No se parece. Esto no estaba aquí cuando.
No estaba ahí la casita.
¿Verdad? No, eso no estaba ahí. Eso era un
placer todo ahí.
Un placer ahí y atrás.
Y atrás.
¿Verdad?
Y atrás, no, ¿cuál tiempo hace eso? 17 años, tiene 89. Los cambios que fueron levantando. La máquina del tiempo fue evolucionando todo rápido, así creciendo las cosas.
As my father reminisces, Willie suddenly dashes across the street. The Cuban time machine flies him back to 1959, when we visited with Mommy as kids in the summer of Castro's new revolution.
This is it. This is what this is. What do you remember? Just tell me what you remember.
From across the street, Amado y Everardo, it was pin a note to my chest. And they put money in my hand and I put it in my pocket. And I would come across the street, except when I was little, it just seemed big. And now I'm looking at it, it's small. But I used to cross that street and they used to send me here a la bodega, en la bodega.
Willie pulls over Orlando, the driver, to the broken window to show him the little store he remembered.
And they'd send me in here, and the guy would take the note off my chest, and I'd give him the money, and they would fill my arms up with sacks and stuff. And then I'd have to get back across the street with the traffic and go inside. One memory, I had bought brown sugar, and the sack from the sugar came through and stained my shirt. And Mom got so upset. And immediately took my shirt off, ran in the backyard and washed it in the basin. These are the stories.
Ya no, ahí no hay nada de idea de eso. Ya no hay nada de idea de eso.
¿Se quedaba dónde?
Porque aquí dice que había otro cuarto, ¿verdad?
Había otro cuarto.
Sí, que esa no.
Que cerramos aquí, hicimos un apartamentico ese.
Que había otro cuarto.
Papi, tú no sabes lo que me encontré. Lo ponieron en papel, una lista de lo que tenían que comprar, porque no me recordaba. Aquí, en el bolsillo. Y abajo nos ponía un billete, que nos ponía en el bolsillo. Y me dice, cruza la calle, ve a la tienda y compra la. Yo tengo miedo, porque en esos días esa calle era gigante, y también había había carreras de caballo y venían por la mañana tempranito, de anda, y tocando la campana y todo el mundo salía para afuera a comprar. Y así se hacía los mandados. Entonces entraba y lo que nosotros compraba de ese hombre nos mandaba. Y yo me recuerdo que era cruzando la calle, encontré la bodega. Está en la esquina. Está en la esquina.
Y en la misma esquina de donde tú estabas la bodega, grande.
Ajá.
Y al lado de la bodega, había una casa.
So choked up on
Y ahí hice yo mi comunión.
La comunión.
Porque eran dos señoras, lo hicieron, venían las camonas de Santa Marta. Y daban, el padre venía ahí, y ahí hice yo la comunión en la casa esa.
Y decidió que sabía de la chica. Y comprando las chicas, cruzando la calle, entré en una manta en el lado. Mami se encabronó. Yo en camisa no me daba. Me quitó la camisa, corrí aquí, y ahí estaba un jabón que se llama
Blancorrina.
Francia. Y me recuerdo el olor de esa jabón. Charles, mira, este edificio ahí mismo vivía Florio. Ahí. Ahí. Matando, pero este edificio no estaba. No, eso le hicimos nuevo ahora. El patio se veía. Nunca había una casita. ¿A dónde? Nosotros nos quedamos aquí, vivía el arco ya estaba en el cine. Y por la mañana nosotros salimos y tiramos piedrecitas para despertarlo. Ahí mismo es el edificio. Y eso era mata de
Me hubiera gustado que Tania hubiera visto, compadre. No pueden venir.
¿Cómo ha cambiado todo?
Está todo fabricado, antes no había nada aquí, todo esto nada más que había aquí en la casa. Todo eso era patio. Mucho estaba abajo.
¿Lo ve deteriorado? El vecindario.
No, está desbaratado. Esto no era de octubre. Que va para allá el otro mejor que acá. Bueno,
Vamos.
Al lado había unos chinos de ahí, a la esquina no había nada.
¿Y dónde estaba la bodeguita?
Esto también. Aquí había. Aquí había un salón separado. Aquí había una puerta. Había un salón y un baño. Ahí estaría la vieja mía se fue, se la dio un cura. Esa bodega la hizo el tío mío.
Our next stop is our father's childhood home on Avellaneda. It's here where he lived from the age of 9 to 17 when he left Cuba for the United States and his American dream.
Le están tirando fotos a la lechería, Magdalena. Quiero una foto.
My brother snaps photographs of the Cubans who live here now, and they're curious about where we're from and why we're here. Mi papá vivía ahí. Él vino ahora por la primera vez.
Usted es el hermano,
El hijo. Y ese,
del marido de Parita.
no. Pero él se fue en el 45. O figúrate cuántos años. El viejito. Él tiene 89 años.
Él.
Ahora tiene 89.
Hay una barbería.
Ahí había una barbería también.
Sí, una barbería, ¿verdad?
¿Usted es familia del marido que le barbarica?
Antes de la barbería.
No, la bodega es aquí.
Esa es de Daniel, la bodega de
Daniel era esa, de Daniel.
Ah, mira, yo no sabía nada.
Ahí tenemos una boda, un salón, un baño.
Había dos baños, uno aquí y otro allá.
Sí, sí.
Daniel era uno aquí y de la manzana allá.
Sí. Y atrás en el parque estaba la finca de la, ¿cómo se llama? El nombre. Era la finca del lugar, allá.
Allá, claro.
Esta casa. Esta familiar.
Ah, sí.
Sí.
On his phone, Willie is eager to show anyone who will look snapshots of history.
Ah, sí.
Snapshots of our father as he was so long ago.
Mi mamá le vendió locura.
Sí. Ah, bueno, ya, yo creía que era.
Bueno, tanto gusto.
Bueno, hasta luego.
Our Havana trip has ended on a bittersweet note. My father is overjoyed that he's connected with his childhood, but also saddened regarding all that's changed. Papi, ¿qué encontraste en Cuba? Cuando fuiste a la iglesia, dime las emociones que tú tuviste.
Fue una emoción muy grande porque empecé a recordar el día que me casé y extrañando a mi señora que no estaba con nosotros. La iglesia estaba muy linda, está igualita cuando la dejé. Recé y encontré un señor ahí que lleva muchos años. Cuando yo me fui de Cuba a los 45 fue cuando nació el hombre, así que tiene 71 años. Él está jubilado y está cuidando la iglesia ahora. Y explicó, cuando yo me casé habían 10 padres, 10 curas, y hoy en día nada más que hay 2, porque las cosas están distintas. La iglesia está igualita, muy bonita, las imágenes, todo. La calidad del cobre, muy linda. Lo único que los años por fuera las calles están distintas y el reparto de la vibra o Jesús de Monte ha cambiado mucho, no lo mismo. No se parece cuando yo lo dejé.
Y cuando fuiste a tu casa en Avellaneda, cuando tú estabas a los 9 años, y molías el café para mami, todo eso, ¿cómo encontraste la casa?
La casa se mantiene, está bien, fuerte, no se ve como las demás propiedades que están todas, se ve fuerte, la pintadita.
¿Y lo encontraste un poco deteriorado?
Demasiado. Las calles, el reparto entero de Jesús del Monte, no solamente en la calle mía, todo eso lo encontré distinto. No era lo mismo. Las casas están... Me dio tristeza ver el barrio.
En la iglesia te vi llorar. ¿Por qué estabas llorando?
Porque me recordé, extrañé a mi esposa.
A su mensaje despierta y oye su voz.
Y me trajo un recuerdo así que me dio tristeza, pero esa es parte de la vida, hay que seguir adelante. Estamos aquí temporalmente hasta que el Señor nos llame. Nacimos para morir y hay que estar preparados, más nada que eso.
En general, ¿cómo encontraste a Cuba cuando regresaste?
La parte que, a donde estamos nosotros, que la Habana Vieja, el Capitolio, todo, esa parte todo la encontré bien, más. Yo lo pensaba, según decían que no estaba esto, pero lo encontré bien. Están arreglando mucho, hay mucho tráfico, hay muchos carros y se ve mucho turismo. Esa parte se ve bonita, me dio alegría.
¿Y cómo te sentiste cuando te apeaste del bote y estabas en tierra cubana por la primera vez?
No, de tantos años. Es una experiencia que el corazón palpitaba.
So, Dad, how did you feel when you saw Cuba for the first time in 6 decades?
My emotion was really good. It brings the memories way back, and I really feel good to see mi Cuba otra vez. There's a lot of change there, a lot of change. President Obama did a good job to get, and the Pope, to bring Cuba together with America. I think that's going to be a good future coming back. It's going to be good idea.
Do you think you'll be back?
I hope so.
So what did you think of your sons?
I can be more proud of two. They really, I never figured that was going to happen.
Well, yes, it's a very emotional trip, not just for Dad, but for all of us. But Dad in particular, from the moment we got off the boat, the idea of stepping away from the boat and onto the dock, his first step onto Cuba, you could tell the difference. His gait, his sense of awareness of what was happening, it all came forward. When we did the walking tour the first day in Little Havana, blew him away. Every turn we made, he was like, oh, yes, I remember that, and this happened here, and I was here as a child. And his father used to drive a bus, and when we were in the cathedral plaza, he would, no matter what else was happening around us, other people talking, he would just poke me in the arm like he always does to get my attention, even though I'm standing right next to him. It's Grandpa, or people, my dad, would drive the number 4 bus, came right here in front of the cathedral. I'd wait for him right here, and we'd go out the other side of the plaza and around and back out. And he would just remember everywhere we went, something happened that triggered a memory. My impression of Old Havana and the walk around was that I was surprised at how well maintained, how clean the area was. The ongoing renovations, the scaffolding in the area, the workers running back and forth, actually fixing the roads, plastering walls, things were being presented and taken care of, and I was just impressed because it's not what I heard. The transition from Old Havana, where we found your driver, and we went to the ancestral home, so to speak. That was only 5 minutes away from Old Havana. The transition was shocking. The drive alone to get there was as if you were driving through a photo log of Beirut. Buildings were completely torn down, abandoned, in such disrepair. Driving to Dad's house, which we were looking for, we go back through the same situation as coming into the projects. Everything is just disrepair, it's terrible. When we finally find his ancestral home, his childhood home, it's fenced with chain link, it looked so cold and forbidden. Iron bars, locked, padlocked gates. The home to me looked as if it was abandoned and it had been secured so that no one could get in it. Going there as a child and spending numerous summer vacations, that city, La Vibra, that area as it's known, was so vibrant, colorful. I would liken it to when I had visited Santo Domingo. Brightly colored buildings. Everything was the homes people took pride in. People were happy. They were vibrant. They were bouncing. There was life in the streets. People were walking around. None of that was there. All the homes were dull, disrepairs, broken windows, trash everywhere. It was terrible. I think this is important to Dad. It's closure in a way. His thoughts of, was things still there? Yes, the home was there. Yes, it's a lot different. He was happy to see that some parts of Havana, as he remembered it, were even better than he remembered it because they are maintaining it. But then it was also sad for him to see how his actual neighborhood had completely been destroyed. His original childhood home is still there. And we also found a cousin. And we were able to, she was working, but we met with her husband.
Yeah.
And we got some memories going there, and then it just was, this whole thing has been wonderful.
Fantastic.
Tell me again how you felt coming back. The emotions, the feeling.
It's a lot of experience back, bring a lot of memories back there.
Yeah. Good ones or bad ones?
I left in 1945.
Okay. Yeah.
That was 71 years.
Yes.
I was almost 17 when I left.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic that he's coming back. I think it's really good, and I think it's great for you guys.
That makes a difference. Yeah.
And his visa, I had to send to the embassy
Here.
in Washington.
It's one last chance for a glimpse of El Morro Castle, a powerful symbol for Cubans the world over. It goes back to 1630, and it was constructed to guard the entrance of Havana from pirates. Sunset gives way to evening as the capital fades from view. Adios, Havana Bella. It takes us a full day and a half at sea to sail from Havana to the southern coast of Cuba, Cienfuegos. It means the land of 100 fires. Our father has never been here, but as a kid he remembers Cubans telling him that it was one of the most beautiful cities on the island.
The wealthiest families in Cienfuegos, they pay and they hire important artists to come. For instance, Enrico Caruso, the famous Italian tenor, he sang in our theater.
Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crece la fama. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crece la fama. Y antes de morir me quiero echar mis besos del alma.
And it's a market in Cuban pesos. Cuban, they sell Cuban products, okay? Eggs, meat, some rum, rice, beans. So we have rice and beans, our ration card, but you can buy the rest that you need. 50 Cuban pesos if we earn 400 pesos a month. So that's it. So it's expensive, okay? But we need to buy it now.
Cienfuegos.
We leave Cienfuegos and make our way towards Santiago, the capital of Cuba's southeastern Santiago de Cuba province.
Esa misma, ¿ves? ¿Está buena?
Yep. Back on board, Dad tries on new hats
Esa agua bendita.
and takes out the plastic bottles he'll fill with holy water from the Basilica of Our Lady of Charity. My father makes fast friends with the Adonia's chief waiter, Cliff Hernandez. He's a devout Catholic who has been touched by my father's spirituality.
He's a wonderful person, you know.
And what happened on this trip that was so special?
It is something special. It was God's plan to meet you on this trip, you know. It was not my plan. It was God's plan. And it is fantastic, you know. You made my whole cruise.
And what did my father do that touched you so much?
I don't know. It is something special. It is something special. And I think it was God's plan. He's such a wonderful person, you know, wonderful person I have come across.
Yes?
Yeah.
You think he's very spiritual?
Yeah, he is. He is. I felt something within myself.
What do you think about the fact that he's returning after almost 6 decades to Cuba?
Oh, even I can say that was God's plan to bring him back to Cuba. Because that is his land where he was born, and God wanted him to take him back to Cuba.
Finally, the majestic mountains of Santiago's Sierra Maestra Mountains come into view. But before we step off, Dad's fan club will not be deterred.
Isn't it? Oh, I think it's been fantastic, and I know how much he has enjoyed going back home. That's great.
But yet your heart must be filled just to be back here.
Yeah, but you can't go.
To see it again.
If you take this elevator down
How many
here,
people get that
it goes
opportunity?
south. So we
Did you
had to
find
like
any
go
relatives?
that way.
Yeah. Did you find any family?
I went to Mahawa, it was so good.
This is once in a lifetime.
It is.
I don't forget it now, person.
Yeah.
Well,
That's good.
yeah.
And you know they-
Congratulations. Still feel good?
Have to keep them.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
It's so awesome. I feel happy for you that you get to do that.
Yeah, I made a lot of good people.
Oh, yes.
You know, make it feel.
Oh,
You know, if you get a Bernie Sanders thing, they're think socialism is great. You know, free this, free that, free that. And I was talking to a minority group. And I says, yeah, it's free. Nothing's free. And what the communist country has done is stifle incentiveness, the incentive to try to, you know, because you're stuck in your own. There's no way that you can
There's
get
no
out of it.
growth.
There's no growth.
Never hasn't been since '59. That's when all that started. I don't know if I told you the story, but one of the big things for my dad was to come back and see Cuba. He hasn't been back over 65 years. So we get to Havana, and we take the tour of Havana, old Havana, and he's walking around. Oh, when I was a child, I did this, and I remember this place, and everything was like a kid on Christmas. He's and you know. Coming from Miami, our impressions because of the local Cuban population was, oh, it's terrible, people are starving, blah, 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 blah. There's no, you know, it's terrible. You shouldn't participate. You shouldn't go over there and put your money into that government. Negative.
Papi, ¿qué piensa de ver a Santiago?
Tristeza. Qué lindo, nunca pensé yo que había visto eso.
¿Y por qué tristeza?
Estoy acordando cuando mamá estuvo aquí, o cuando era joven. De todo es montaña, montaña. qué cosa más linda.
¿Y estás excitado de visitar la Virgen de la Caridad del Cobre?
Sí, sí.
¿Qué es lo que vas a rezar cuando la veas?
Rezar mucho por él. Que nos dé salud hasta que ella nos mande a buscar. Lo que han hecho ustedes ha sido
No llores, padre.
We are going to be able to travel to the Basilica of Our Lady of Charity, or La Caridad del Cobre. It's, for Cubans, it's the most religious pilgrimage you can make. We have a facsimile of the version in Miami, but this is the original. And it's just one of the holiest moments for us to be able to do this and to share this with my dad and my brother, who's annoying us with his camera. It's a very special moment in our lives. Dad's intention is we're going to gather holy water from the shrine and bring back, and he's going crazy over this.
In 1614, the miners asked the Virgin to be brought in a pilgrimage. The Virgin was brought to the little town of El Cobre, where the copper mines are, and he stayed there for about 3-4 days, and then he was returned to the original place, to Guadalajara.
This is the Basilica de la Caridad del Cobre.
Si vas al cobre, quiero que me traigas una virgencita de la caridad. Y si vas al cobre, tráeme una estampita que sea bendita de la caridad. Y si vas al cobre, quiero que me traigas una virgencita de la caridad.
Cuando viste a la Virgen, ¿qué emoción tuviste?
Una emoción muy bonita. Ella siempre está conmigo, así que no estamos no se mal.
¿Siempre está contigo?
Siempre.
Now we have most of the people living over here. They work in the city of Santiago on the industries and the hospitals and schools. No?
From Santiagueros dressed in colorful folkloric garb at a community center in town, to a farmer taking a break with his burro, El Campo, the countryside, is as much a part of Cuba as music and rum. And for the Cuban people, it's inevitable that the music in their hearts will connect to the rhythm in their feet, no matter how old they are.
And there came a time when people used to marry and divorce easily, because it's so easy to divorce here in Cuba, as we don't have a lot of things to share. We divorce, and then after this you have 1 year just to call a lawyer and split things, but they don't have anything to split. So the statue of our local hero, Antonio Maceo, was made of bronze. Huh? With a special period, things became, the government had to close down lots of industries because the raw material was coming from the Soviet Union. And well, some people began just asking, well, we had to, the only way just to get out of this crisis was tourism, even though the government didn't want to, because they consider, how to say, belonging to the capitalist economy.
Another stop in Santiago for my father is the famed San Juan Hill, the site of the bloodiest and most famous battle of the 1898 Spanish-American War. The hill was the scene of the greatest victory for the Rough Riders and Teddy Roosevelt, and my father seemed to relish reliving La Victoria.
This writer, Graham Greene, and he was here on one of those rooms, and he began writing this novel, American.
Bueno, a ver, para la familia, aquí tiene otro hijo en Cuba, ¿eh? Mi respeto.
¿Se portó bien?
Pero, coño, espléndido, es una bella persona, lo mejor que tenemos nosotros acá.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
En el puente, el barco va a la casa. ¿Será un hotel?
This is what we're seeing as we're leaving the port.
¿Qué te parece?
¿Cuáles son estos tus pensamientos?
Que ustedes joden mucho.
¿Por qué tú te portaste mal en la Virgen de la Caridad?
Fuimos a ver la caridad.
Cuando vaya a Cuba, para la caridad, para pam 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 pam.
It's been a pleasure.
If you knew mine, you wouldn't even.
It was so lovely to meet you.
The Cuba that my father saw on this trip was not the vibrant Cuba he had left behind. Much of the island was in tatters. Her face looked tired and drawn. But despite this, the Cuban people had stayed the same. He felt their warmth, and they felt his.
Cuba linda de mi vida, Cuba linda, siempre te recordaré. Cuba linda de mi vida, Cuba linda, siempre te recordaré. Yo quisiera verte ahora como la primera vez. Cuba linda de mi vida, Cuba linda, siempre te recordaré. Cuba linda de mi vida, Cuba linda, siempre te recordaré. Oye, cuando escucho un son cubano, cuando escucho un son cubano de los tiempos ya pasados, mi corazón se entristece y mi juventud revive ese tesoro cubano, tierra de ensueño y encanto, con su son tan habanero, tierra que yo tanto quiero, tierra que yo tanto quiero y por ella yo me muero. Cuba linda de mi vida, Cuba linda, siempre te recordaré. Te recordaremos, te recordaré, rumbero, te recordaremos, te recordaremos.